YouTube? My name is rhianaB and welcome back to my Survivor 41 review series, and today we are going to be covering episode number 2. So first off, I want to address I'm not wearing any makeup. My hair is a little bit of a mess, and I did not put a lot of effort into my look today because life outside of YouTube has been a pain in my ass. So bear with me on that. I'm getting to this video a little bit later than I planned, but we're here now, so let's delve right into episode 2. First off, we have Brad, who actually wants to play the game of Survivor. This seems so crazy compared to how we saw him in the premiere, where it seemed like he wanted to play a very old school game, and I thought that would bring to his downfall as for however long he's going to remain in the game. And now I think he's going to have an entirely different reason for everyone else to get him out of the game, and that is Brad seems very impulsive. He wants to play the game. Apparently, he's into a lot of the new twists and turns happening this season. I think that's going to be more foreshadowed for next week. But for now, we see Brad pulling his inner Tony, but he creates his own spy shack to go and spy on JD and Ricard, who were making their trip to the water well to talk. Now, obviously, because it's a smaller tribe, they have 5 people on there, and there's only 3 guys. When they start talking about he might think you have an idol, he may have an idol, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, Brad knows they're talking about me. So here we are with Brad, who's spying in on this conversation. Now he's getting a little bit more insight on how JD and Ricard think of Brad, especially since Brad has kind of been in favor with JD a little bit, especially since he's the one who told JD last episode that he was going to be in trouble, and he kind of was, even though he didn't receive any votes. So now he's getting more information, and he's running like a madman back and forth trying to get this information. But the problem is, when you are doing this in the view of everyone on your tribe, it's gonna make you look paranoid, and it's gonna make you look very sporadic. And Shan, I also need to apologize to Shan because I was pronouncing her name wrong the entirety of the last episode of my review. I apologize for that. But Shan now is starting to feel a little skeptical about her having a relationship with Brad. So does Ricard, and now he is getting suspicious of him as well. So now Brad has a more giant target on his back than he ever did in the last episode. But I do, later in the video, want to make a quick observation between Shan and another player. But for right now, let's head back over to Luvu, who, this is interesting. I wonder if this is another editing choice, but Deshawn is having problems starting the fire. And Nasir is the one who ends up fixing the fire. But one comment that Deshawn made was, if any of you want to go up against someone in fire making a Final Four, you might want to pick me. So either that's a foreshadowing choice by the editors to be like, he is going to be in the Final Four. He's either going to make the decision to go into it, or he will be there at the very end, or it's just a random thing to add context to a scene where Nasir basically is the rock star of the camp of Luvu. I don't know. We'll see which one ends up being true. But what's interesting is now that Nasir has now become very vital. In the last episode, when he spilled the tea on Danny and Deshawn looking for an idol during the sweat challenge, now he's proving himself to be very reliable at camp. It's almost like Ozzy syndrome, where Ozzy just became such the provider that no one really wanted to take him out, at least in Cook Island, and kind of on Redemption Island in South Pacific. But regardless, he's becoming a big asset around camp because of his experience in the outdoors. So much so, we did get an insight into his life, living in Sri Lanka, living with no electricity, very like humble way of living, just simplistic. And he was happy with that, and it obviously comes in handy in the game of Survivor. Even he wanted the game to be tougher because he wanted to test himself and his knowledge that he grew up with in Sri Lanka, which I think is really interesting. However, I don't know if it's going to take him far in the game. Usually providers are great in the pre-merge, but basically post-merge, it kind of becomes like, nah, do we really need you? So I don't know how I feel about Nasir. I don't see him making it past the merge. I could be proven wrong, we'll wait and see. And then, the complete opposite spectrum, we have Yasa, and Yasa has been a train wreck since the moment they were marooned on the ship. And, oh boy, a lot of stuff went on with Yasa this episode. It was really, really fascinating. The first big thing is that Xander goes looking for an advantage or an idol in the game. Turns out he ends up finding the Beware advantage that Jeff had placed in the tree in the very beginning of the last premiere episode. The one that Tiffany could not find, and oh boy, is this advantage a doozy. So let me break this down because it is very complicated, and I even had to like read over this in my 2-time watching this episode because this is very complex. Okay, first off, it is a 3-way idol, and all the idols are at every camp. So there are going to be 3 idols that are optimal to play in this season. We don't know the exact rules of the idol. That might come into play when someone actually activates the idol, and activate is a very powerful word here. Because the only way this idol can gain power is that if it's found by everybody else. And you have to announce that you have the idol at a collective immunity challenge. And every single person who has found this clue to this idol have to say specific phrases. And once every single phrase is said in the same immunity challenge opener, then those idols are now active. But there is one big kicker, and this was the moment where I'm like, holy shit, this is insane. And that is, until this idol becomes active, you cannot vote at a tribal council. And just, excuse me, WTF, what? I could not believe this. I mean, it's fascinating, but what the hell, Survivor? What? Like, this is pure insanity. Basically, you were making players behave in a way like Coach, because these phrases, and I'll get to one of them later, these are very complex. And I don't know this reference because I don't watch Big Brother, but I saw a lot of people online talking about how this is Polly from Big Brother 18. If any of you know that reference, good on you. I don't. But I saw it as being like very much coachy kind of lingo. And this really requires a super savvy player to really make this work. And it's kind of a good thing that Tiffany didn't get it, because she's proven herself so far. She's not the most savvy of Survivor players, but Xander is very interesting. And I think he could make this work, but we've got a lot of steps to even get to a good conclusion here. So Xander, in the meantime, so he then goes to his main alliance, which is Evie and Voce. And I'm so sorry, Voce was the other person I kept mispronouncing their name in the last video, and again, I apologize for that. But he spills all of this, including the fact that Xander has an extra idol to these two. That's a lot of information to give, and I would not have given really half that information to these two. Yes, they're your alliance, but you have to remember, everyone's playing for themselves, especially Evie, who has been the rock star of this episode, with Xander probably being in last place given the confessional count. Especially since these new reveals from Xander are going to play a big part in Evie's future moves in this episode alone. So one question I did want to ask very quickly. What would you choose? What would you do if you were in Xander's position? Would you take the beware advantage, or would you leave it alone? If I myself were Xander in this situation, if I knew that I had a pretty decently strong alliance and I had an extra vote, hell no, I wouldn't take the beware advantage. Hell no. Though I do understand the idea also of taking it. This is a shorter season, it's completely unpredictable, that why not take every advantage you can? But here's the thing, this is still Survivor, and too much of a good thing is not really possible, and also it can lead to a big downfall. So if you keep going after more and more advantages, it only does you so much. And I think this is the perfect example where you get greedy with your lust of power in the game, that you basically just kind of screwed yourself over. And in this case, Xander doesn't have any viable votes. He can't vote at all until the other idols are active, and who knows when that is even going to happen. So if I were Xander, I would not have taken it. I would have just left it in the tree. I would have had it be somebody else's problem. The other thing too, it's just for an idol. I feel like this season is going to have so many advantages, probably not as much as they have in the past, but there's still going to be a lot of advantages. So you still have plenty of opportunity to get more advantages that aren't risking your life in the game currently. So for me, I would not have taken it. I would have just left it in the tree, and I would have left it to be somebody else's problem. I'm going to delve into more details with Evie because some more stuff happened before the immunity challenge, but let's get to the immunity challenge really quickly. First off, we're going to have 2 winning tribes, so only one tribe is going to tribal council, which does make sense. They can't have double tribals every single episode because that would get way too overcluttered. But, oh my god, Miss Tiffany, you You basically crashed and burned, hun. That was not great. I have seen, and there have been many, many blowouts in Survivor history, but this has to be one of the worst blowouts by a singular player in Survivor history. And she does not have the glow up that Suri had, like she had in Game Changers, where she had time to walk across the beam. No, you're not up to Suri levels yet, Tiffany, so you didn't get much of a good edit here. But oh my god, that was so painful to watch. Even on my second watch of the episode, I could not watch that segment because it was just making me cringe so hard how badly she was failing. It was so bad. But credit to Liana and Evie and Voce for picking it back up. They were actually still in it to win immunity, but sadly for Yasa, Luvu, and Yua were the winners, and they also got fishing gear. But now Yasa is still without a flint, and they don't have any fishing gear, so they are really struggling in this season so far. Here's another twist though. Luvu now has some power in the game. They get to choose someone from Yasa, the losing tribe, to go to a new summit. And then they can send somebody else either from Yua or from their own tribe, and Deshawn volunteers to go. So they end up going to the summit, which is the exact same layout of how it was in the premiere. This time it's with 2 people, and it makes the strategizing a little bit different because it's between 2 people. This can really solidify a new 2-person alliance bond, and that's exactly what Evie picks up on. She starts talking to Deshawn, wanting to befriend him, give him information that she clarifies as not being her own secrets, but everybody else's secrets. So she does spill to him that Xander has an extra vote and that he has found the Beware idol. And now Deshawn knows about this Beware idol. And now Deshawn knows about the Beware advantage. Now, I don't know if this necessarily means that if he's going to actually take it for himself. If Evie really told him quite a few details, and she did, basically Deshawn now has a choice that if he is going to get this advantage for himself, or if Evie didn't tell him a lot of the specifics of it, now he could pick that idol, and now the burden is now on him, on his tribe. And that can lead to some craziness because we have yet to see a lot of strategizing from the Lulu camp. So that would be very interesting to see. Also, another quick point out that Deshawn also got a life insight moment in this episode, talking about the 3 Ds, and that is discipline, determination, and dedication. So I'm really kind of curious on how these like in-life moment events, how they're being portrayed in these episodes, because I do wonder how much of it's going to play into their overall edit. We obviously saw Sarah got one in the premiere episode, and then she goes home. And then we saw JD, who I really think is going to be a huge player in this season. He got one as well. So I don't know if everyone's going to get their own moment throughout the season. I don't know. But for right now, it's interesting to see how they're picking who gets them when and where. So really quickly, to wrap up the summit, before we get back to the Yasa camp, where we've got a lot of stuff going on there, Evie does tell Deshawn to gain favor with him that she's going to protect her vote because she really doesn't have a choice. And that way, Deshawn can risk his vote, and then he gets an extra vote in the game. That's going to really solidify their bond, but we're going to have to wait and see how that is going to really work on their so-called alliance, because they've only met once. They don't know much more about each other, so Evie's got to have a choice. Right now, she is juggling 3 different alliances. One with Liana and Tiffany, one with Xander and Voce, and then now this new formed one with Deshawn. She's gonna have to make a choice unless she is able to use her social skills to combine as much of these alliances together, very much like Parvati in Micronesia, where she was able to take Natalie and Alexis and combine it with Suri and Amanda to create the Black Widow Brigade. If she can make this work, it would be a really great play by Evie. Now let's go on back to Yasa. We got a lot going on here. So first off, we already know that on the chopping block is Tiffany because of her terrible performance in the challenge, and Xander because of all of these new advantages that he is now getting. Is it with your current loyalty, or is it with keeping the tribe strong? Again, very old school versus new school approach, which is very fitting on a season like this where we're starting a new era of Survivor. So basically, Voce and Xander, they start to go toward Liana. Since Xander doesn't have a vote, they need another number on their side. So they go to Liana, who's the only viable option at this point, because they're wanting to get out Tiffany. Now Liana also has a choice, because she is also closely aligned with Evie and Tiffany. So she's also got to make the choice, do I stick with my girls' alliance, or do I try to keep us from going to future tribal councils? Because no one wants to have a 3-person tribe. No one wants to be like Matt Singh. And all of this seems to be going pretty well. It does look like it's gonna be a Xander blindside. That is until Tiffany starts opening her mouth. And good God, if you're a Survivor fan, this is the last thing you want to be doing. And her, being a proclaimed Survivor fan, should know better than to start blabbering her mouth. Because she starts getting paranoid. She starts to really panic. She's basically going like, if Xander does have an idol, I'm not even sure if this idol that he was talking about with you earlier, if it's actually active or not. He was spouting a bunch of bullshit at the immunity challenge. Who knows if he's lying to everyone? And I understand where she's coming from, but also, girl, you have your ally being a supposed disguised ally with the person you're trying to get out. Why would she lie to you about that? So she basically starts thinking that Xander does have an idol, which he doesn't, because he tried to say butterflies are dead relatives that are speaking to me or whatever.
And I woke up delusional thinking that I truly believe that butterflies are just dead relatives saying hi.
Obviously, it's not in play, so Xander has no power here. But Tiffany is still just so confused about how it all works, and she's still so paranoid because she thinks she's going home. People are calling out her name. It just makes her going crazy, to the point where Liana and Evie are both now questioning, do we even keep her? Because she's not being reliable and she's a big firecracker. And then Evie makes the point that Xander is very loyal to her and that he trusts her. So now Evie is right smack dab in the middle. She is the swing vote here. Where does she go? So now we're at Tribal Council, and things seem to be going as if it's still Xander versus Tiffany. And then this is interesting because now Voce is getting a lot of insight into his personal life at Tribal, which in hindsight, it was a big red flag when I was first watching the episode with my mom and our neighbors, because getting that much insight to your own personal life at a Tribal Council, it could lean one of two ways. Either you are safe or you are gone. It's basically he is 100% safe or he's 100% going home. And my gut was telling me at the time, ooh, Voce's not in good shape. And this actually might not be what I think it's gonna be, because he's giving a lot of insight about his mother, about his experience in the medical field, because he is a surgeon, that I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. We go up to vote. And Xander can't vote, so we only have 4 votes in play here. 1 vote for Tiffany. 1 vote for Voce. The next 2, Voce and Voce. Which means Voce is our 3rd contestant taken out of Survivor 41, and I was so shocked. I think my gut was telling me that that was a possibility, but the fact that it actually happened. What the hell, Yasa? What are you doing? I feel like I am reliving watching Survivor Philippines again with the Matt Singh tribe, and this isn't an intentional Matt Singh. This is not purposeful. Or at least they're not losing these challenges purposefully for them to try to make their numbers stronger because there's so few of them. This is just so crazy to me that you would get rid of someone who is giving you strength and smarts. Why keep Tiffany, who is not the best in challenges, is not really reliable, she's constantly panicking? Like, do you want that? Unless you want to drag her around like she's a Philip Shepherd, I don't see any point of keeping her in. However, because of my theory from my premiere episode review, I have to think she's gonna be a big player in the game here. She's going through a lot of these trials in the first couple of days of the game, but I can't see how she's surviving all of this when she's making a lot of, in my opinion, rookie mistakes. Like, oh my goodness, okay. Wow. Anyway, yeah, I was not expecting a lot of this to happen this episode, and a lot of it on Yasa. So at this point, Yasa need a win or they need a swap. They need one of the two. They need to have a shakeup here, or they are going to be going down at the same rate as Matt Singh did, and I can't imagine I kind of want to imagine, but I can't right now picture that it's going to be a Denise Malcolm duo or even a trio situation here. As much as I think it would be kind of cool, I just can't see it happening. There's something that's telling me it's not going to happen. And I just think that the smarter players on this tribe, which in my opinion right now, basically everybody except Tiffany, they have got a lot to maneuver around with this tribe. So they really need a big shakeup in the game for things to go their way. Or they just need a challenge that they can win. That would work too. But yeah, that's basically it for episode 2 of Survivor 41. A lot happening, a big blindside, and oh boy, there's still more to come. I really want to touch upon one thing though, and that is 2 of my favorite players this season. That is Shan and Evie. And what's interesting about both of these women is that they are playing very similar games. They are very smart, they are very sociable, and they're not half bad in challenges, although I think Shan has shown more prowess, but we haven't seen a lot of Evie. We might in the future, but for right now, Shan is showing more of the real power in the challenges. But they're both playing very similar games, and I find it so fascinating how they're being portrayed in the edit. Both of them are juggling different alliances. We have Shan, who had a relationship with Sarah and Ricard, but now she also has a relationship with JD and Brad. And I don't know about the relationship with Jeannie, because she didn't get absolutely nothing in this episode. But I'm curious about how both of these women are going to be shown off in the edit, because right now, Evie is showing more of the drive to push and push and push, where Shan is kind of taking it back. She's kind of letting things happen around her, and she's kind of just inching herself into conversations. She's just inching herself into ways of knowing what's going on in the camp. They're both similar, but yet they have their own little quirks that make them very different. And I find it so fascinating to see both of my favorite players and women that I would love to see make it to the end and or to win. I'm just really fascinated by how they're being overall portrayed here. I also did forget to mention about the riddle that they're showing in every episode for the game within a game, that the answer to that was worth playing for. Literally was the easiest one out of the 2 we've seen so far. It was just like, it was like that. We had it, me, my mom, and our neighbors had it in like a minute or less than a minute. It was very easy. But yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything that I've wanted to cover. And I'm still so excited about Survivor being back and to see all the new twists and turns, and I really do not know what to expect. These first 2 episodes have proven to me there is so much going on, there's so much unpredictability, and it's going to make the game all the more fun to watch. So I can't wait for the rest of the season. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me the comments down below. What did you think of episode 2? What were some of your favorite moments? Did you think Yasa made the right decision here? And what do you see the future of happening for Yasa or any of the players? I would love to read your comments. And if you want to see my future videos or videos I've already done, go ahead, hit subscribe and hit the little bell icon so you can be notified when my videos come out. That's all I have for you guys today, and until the next video, bye! Mwah.